Hey guys, Steve Good here with the Scroll Saw Workshop. I'm in my office today and not in the shop, and I'm going to be reviewing the xTool P2 55 watt CO2 Laser Engraver Cutter. About a year ago, maybe just a little over a year ago, I was lucky enough to be able to review the xTool D1, which was a diode laser, and I was really impressed with that machine. For a diode laser, it worked really well, had a lot of power. I eventually was able to upgrade the diode laser to the 20 watt laser module, which gave it even more power, and I liked it a lot, and I liked the company a lot. They were easy to work with. I made a little money, they made a little money, so everything worked out well. Well, not too long ago, I got a message from them that they were going to send me this P2 model, and this is a much more powerful, much more serious, and more expensive laser, but it does some unique things that I really like. But the primary reason I wanted to review this tool is because, like I said, I really like this company. They've been very responsive to any questions I've had. When we were doing this whole affiliate marketing thing, all that was set up really well and easy to do. So it's a company that I trust. And for me, that's important, is that I can trust to give my opinion on a machine and know that the company that provides it will stand behind it. I'm going to break this video up into at least 3 different sections because this machine has so many new and unique features that it would run on too long if I tried to go through everything in one video. So to keep this at least somewhat short, I'm going to break it up, and I'll probably do the next video in a couple days, and then a couple more days down the road I'll do that. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about the fit and finish of this machine, and then I want to talk about a couple of the unique features. The ability to engrave on a curve, which I think is really cool, and the ability to do group where you can put down, like say if you were doing dog tags, you could put down 10 or 15 of them in any order, bring in your graphic, line it up on one of the dog tags, hit the smart fill, and it'll fill in the rest of them. Now, let me start out by saying the software that I'm using is the xTool Creative Space that comes with the machine. I like it, but it still has some bugs in it. It really does. There's some things that I'm confident they're going to fix because they don't seem to be that difficult of things to fix. But there's a couple things I'm going to show you here that may not work perfectly the first time. The other thing is the xTool P2 is compatible with Lightburn. Now, if you followed any of my laser reviews in the past, you know that I'm a big Lightburn guy. I love that software. It's very, very intuitive and very, very powerful. It's more powerful than the xTool Creative Space tool that they give with the machine, but there's a couple of features that only work in the xTool Creative Space tool. So we will use that tool and not be using Lightburn here. I have used Lightburn. It's not a perfectly compatible system, but I've talked to the people at Lightburn. They're working on it. I've talked to the people at xTool. They're working on that. It works. It's just a couple of workarounds you got to go through to get it to work. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the fit and finish of this machine. I'll just start out by telling you right off the bat, it's built very well. It is mostly plastic on the outside, but it's a very durable, solid plastic. When you open the lid, it's well lit. A lot of the interior is metal, but the slats, this machine doesn't come with a honeycomb. It comes with these removable slats, which I actually really like. I've always used honeycomb on my other lasers for the bed, and these slats give you a better finish on the back of the project, so I like these really well. There's a couple of negatives to them. Sometimes when you're cutting out small pieces, the piece will fall through the slats. Then when the laser comes back around, it'll be out of focus because it's sitting down here on the tray, and it'll burn that piece that maybe you want to keep. So you do have to kind of pay attention to how you line things up. But other than that, I really like the slats. It will laser engrave onto, it's a little bit more than 12 inches by 24, but basically that's the size that you'll be using most of the time. I generally use 12 inch by 12 inch, either 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch Baltic birch plywood, and it has no problem with that at all. This machine, as far as features, comes with 2 cameras. It has a close-up camera on the laser head, and it has a wide-angle camera back here. When you put your piece of wood on the bed, you hit refresh up on the control software. It takes a picture of the bed, shows you the wood, and then you can take your image loaded in and place it anywhere on the board by looking at the screen in the software. Works very well. The wide angle camera gives you pretty good accuracy, but the close-up camera gives you extremely good accuracy. You can actually engrave a name on the side of a toothpick. It's that accurate. Now you got to keep the toothpick from blowing away, so you got to hold it in place because it does have air assist. The air assist blows it, but it's very accurate. The software and I'll show you here in a few minutes on the screen, the software that sets up all the registration and everything works very well. It also has a laser, see if I can find it here. It has a laser that points out that when you put your piece of wood on the tray, you hit a button up on the software and it will actually measure the thickness of the board you have there. So no more manual focusing, with the little piece of plastic feeler gauge. It does the auto function as far as focusing, and I've found that to be very accurate. It looks like it's probably within 1/10 or 2/10 of a millimeter accurate, so that has worked out really well. And when you're focusing a laser, it needs to be close, but it doesn't have to be real close, so it works out fine. There's several features that I like about this laser, but one is it has a self-contained water cooling tank. When you get the machine, they'll have you take this back panel off and fill up a little reservoir over there in the back left-hand corner. They actually send you a bottle of antifreeze in case you have this out in your garage where it gets cold, so you can mix your distilled water with your antifreeze to be able to maintain a cooler temperature. I currently have mine in my office, so I could have gotten away with just using plain distilled water, but I did add a little bit of the antifreeze just in case. Eventually I do plan to take both of these lasers. I got another laser sitting over on the left. I plan to take them into my shop, but I've got to work on the fumes extraction out of my shop. I don't have an easy location to do that with. So anyway, you get it in, you unbox it. It came very well packaged. It was totally dent-free. The box was in good shape. Lots of styrofoam. It was packaged very well. The only problem I had is when I got all the screws out to take the back panel off, I struggled to get the back panel off. It was a little weird, but I finally checked out a YouTube video and figured that out with no problem. A couple other features are the mirrors are magnetically mounted, so when you pull the mirrors out to clean them, they literally just pull out just with a little bit of pressure from your fingers. That's really nice. I like that because you do want to clean the mirrors in the lenses, fairly often to keep them clean so you keep your power up. The fume exhaust is this little gate right here, has a fairly powerful fan. When you watch this thing through the window, typical of all lasers, it generates a pretty good amount of smoke, especially when you're cutting thicker wood. And the extraction is a 3-inch hose, and I just feed it out my window through a little gate, and the extraction has been fine. One feature that is cool with the fume extraction is that when you close this lid and start the laser, the lid is locked, and it'll give you an indicator on here whether it's locked or unlocked. After it finishes the job, it stays locked for 10 seconds until all the fumes have been extracted out the back of the machine, and that has been very well done. It extracts the fumes perfectly well. Sometimes on my other laser that doesn't have that feature, I will get done a job and I'm in a hurry and I raise the lid up real quick and I let those smoke out into the room, and because my office is in the downstairs of my house, that smoke will eventually rise up and my wife smells it. So I like this feature, even though sometimes I get a little impatient and want to open the door. 10 seconds is not that long. So and it does work really well. I have this machine on this riser right here. This is to add height to the amount of inches you have to laser engrave onto a surface. This does not come standard with the machine. This opens up, and everything from here down is part of this riser. So this is an accessory that you have to pay extra for. The debris tray slides out, very easy to empty. On my other laser, it just falls down into the bottom of the machine. I got to go clean it out. This works really well. When you put the riser on, you can take the debris tray and put it in these different slots down here to change your height, or you can actually just set it on set your piece that you're going to engrave on the surface of the table. That has all worked out very well. The riser was not difficult to put together. It did come in a few pieces. It went together pretty well, but the machine itself, the laser, is heavy. So you will need help getting this out of the box up onto your table, and you will need help getting it onto the riser if you choose to buy the riser. The xTool P2 does have a small graphic display over here on the right side of the laser. It gives you the lock symbol for when the door is locked. It gives you your connection status as far as whether you're connected through USB or Wi-Fi or network. This machine is capable of being connected through any of those methods. And it gives you the temperature of your coolant. It also, when you start a job, this turns into a progress bar, and it shows you the progress of the job being run. This is the start button. Now, when I first saw this, I thought I wouldn't like having a start button because I've always just started it from the software, but I'm standing here in front of the machine anyway, so this hasn't been an issue. I actually was originally trying to think of a way to make this auto push from my desk, but ended up not being a thing. So this has all worked out really well. I apologize, I don't have my screen recording software set up on this computer, so I'm just going to video it straight from the camera, so you may not see it very well, but I will come back later and do a more thorough review of the software. But I just want to show you some of the basic features of what you can see. When you first start the software, it will automatically take a picture of the bed, and in this case I've already started it and taken these little medallions over here. But over here on the right upper hand corner, there's a refresh button. If I hit the refresh, it will scan the bed, and that is the piece of wood that I currently have in the bed of the machine. Here's a graphic that I bought in. Whoops, let me back up and grab that again. You drag the graphic over to the board, place it where you want to place it, and you can set whether you want to carve it or engrave it. Hit the start button, good to go. When you click on this little button over here on the right, you'll get this box, and what this is it's going to measure the thickness of this board. So I can come over to this board, put this where I want it to measure, click, the laser head is moving out. It took a laser engraving snapshot, whatever you want to call that, and it put the thickness of that board at 2.4 millimeters. And I found it to be pretty close. So now that we've got the thickness set, we've got our graphic on the board where we want it, we hit start, let it update, hit start again. Now it's ready, and as soon as we hit the start button, it'll scan that job or create that job. That's as far as I want to go right now with the software overview, because I need the screen recorder so you can see it better and be able to do a better job of demonstrating that. So in one of the next two videos, I will do a better job of showing you the software and how it works. What I want to do to finish up this video is just show you two of the special features that I don't think most other, if any other, lasers that I've seen on the market can do. One is the ability to engrave on a curve, and it does a pretty pronounced curve. The laser head in this machine, the lens, can move up and down as the laser is engraving, so it will follow the curvature, and I'll show you how we do that. The other thing I want to show you is the group engraving, where you can take 10 or 15 items, set up your graphic for one of the items, and then it will auto disperse that image onto the rest of them. That's a feature of the machine that I really like, but it has caused me some issues. So it could be my problem because I'm only had this machine for a week, so I haven't got everything figured out yet. But we'll give that a try too. Here's a feature of the xTool P2 that I don't believe we'll see on any other laser on the market, and that's the ability to actually engrave on a curve. Now this is just a test piece, so obviously this isn't, something you would naturally do. But say, like for instance, if you had a bowl and you wanted to engrave the inside of the bowl, and I'll show you one of those in a few minutes. But I've just cut this curve out on my scroll saw, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put text that runs from here all the way over to here and have it actually engrave that. I'm going to put it on the laser bed. In this case, I've taken out some of the slats just because I want to get the height about where I want it to be. So I'm kind of propping it up there a little bit, and we'll put it in there just like that. And I've got it pretty straight, but we can line it up when we get into the software. So I'm going to close it up, we'll go into the software, and I'll show you how that works. Back up on my computer monitor, I'm going to show you the steps you have to go through to engrave on a curve. Now this is a little bit of a slow process, but I think the technique is unique enough that there will be jobs that this will be the only tool that will allow you to do it. So once we get the piece set up on the bed, we come over here and hit this little drop down and we do curve process. Click on that. That gives us a screen with a little button here that says curve measure. Click on the curve measure. It will bring up this utility that is going to let us move the laser head, and I'll show you in the bed of the machine in a minute. We have a little red dot pointer, and we're going to put it at the upper left hand corner and the lower right hand corner, and we're going to mark each one of those points. And we do that by using these buttons right here to move the laser head back and forth until we get it lined up. It is set, the distance that the laser head moves on each click is set right here. So it's set at 100 millimeters, which is a large jump. You will have to adjust this from 100 down to 10, down to maybe even 1 to get the pointer lined up exactly where you want it. I've got the camera pointed back down in at the bed of the laser. You may or may not be able to see, but there's a little red dot pointer right there at the end of my pointer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the adjustment I just showed you to put a red dot right there in that upper left hand corner, measure it and mark it. I'm going to put it over here in this left hand corner, bottom, measure it and mark it, and then we'll go on to the next step. So I'm going to use my mouse. Now this is set at 100 millimeters, so you can see we had a fairly large movement there, and that's going to be probably more than we're going to be able to use to get it lined up. So I'm going to take this down to 10. Now I'm set on 10 millimeters of movement. And you can see there's our red dot. I'm obviously way too far to the right. I'm going to move back. And I'm going to take it up that ramp to just about right there. I'm going to change the value now to 1 millimeter so I can get it adjusted just where I want it. All right, about there. And I'm going to hit vertex 1 mark. So I'm marking the upper left hand corner. Mark. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to move it over to the right bottom corner. So I've got to change my distance traveled here. We'll go to 50. We'll go to about there. We'll change this back down to 1. And we'll say right about there. We're going to mark vertex number 2. Now I'm going to close the lid and I'll try to get you in there where you can see it. I'll move the camera up here in just a second. I'm going to hit next on the screen. And that will take me to a screen that I'm going to move the camera so you can see the screen again. Now what's going to happen is we've got these dots up here, and it's going to go along and take a measurement on the piece on the bed at every one of these dots. It's going to measure the height. So it will basically map out the curve of that piece of wood. Now we can change the number of rows and the number of columns to make this more finer detail of a measuring, but I think for just text we'll be fine with just the 3 lines and 30 columns. I'm going to hit the start measuring button, and then I'll take you back down to where you can see it measuring. And you can't see real good, but you get the idea. It's going along in increments of 3 lines, 30 columns, and taking a measurement at each one of those marks. What you see here on the screen is the map of that curve. We have a couple different parameters we can look at here. The map, the top view, again the 3D view, and that just shows the grid. So now when we hit done, we'll have a white box on the screen, and whatever image or text we put into that white box right there is what will get engraved on the piece of wood. So I'm going to go over here to my text tool, and I'm going to stop the video and I'll type in some text and we'll be right back. I have my text. This is an xTool P2 engraving on a curve inside this white box. I have to come over here and set it to engrave and set it to a power of about 15. That might be a little strong, but we'll see. And the speed, the maximum speed we can get when we're engraving on a curve is 30 millimeters per second, which is pretty slow. But again, this is a feature that only this tool can do right now, so I think it's worth the time. So I'm going to set you up to where you can see back in the engraving process, and we'll give this a start. I think you can see that that is a pretty neat effect. And again, I don't know of another laser. There may be one out there that does it that I don't know about. But for a laser in this price range, I'm pretty sure that's a unique feature. And I have tried it on a bowl. I didn't get the image centered on the bowl, and I used a very dark wood. But I'll show you that here in just a second. Okay, here's my attempt at doing the curve on a bowl. And the laser did okay. It's just that the wood was a little dark to get a good contrast for the image. It's just a deer scene. But I think you can see that if I had made it a little bit larger and got it centered better, that would have been a pretty cool effect. The next kind of special feature that I want to show you is something I've had a little trouble with, but in general it works. So I want to show you this feature because I think as they further develop the xTool Creative Space software, this will get better, but it does work. This is just another, obviously a sample test, but what we can do is we can take different pieces, lay them down on the bed, put a graphic on one of them, hit the Smart Fill button, and it will fill in the graphic on the rest of them. Now, you may notice that I have painted a board black and set it down on the bed of the laser. I did that because I needed better contrast. Even with the black slats and the black bottom debris tray in there, there was enough shine and light reflection from those slats that it confused the software and it didn't know where to put the graphics. It would sometimes put 2 on one of the pieces, and then it would, you know, fill them in, and then maybe put 3 or 4 scragglers over here to the side. So it just didn't work very well. So I thought, well, if I get a better contrast, maybe I can get it to work. So I put this board down here, got the pieces in there. Let's close it up and we'll go up to the software and we'll take a look at it. Okay, we're back up here looking at the monitor again. I've refreshed the screen. The camera has captured where I placed all the little medallions, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to load in a graphic. I'm going to put it on one of these medallions. I'm going to go up here and hit the Smart Fill button and see what it does. So I'm going over here to my image. I'm going to import. In this case, I'm just going to import a bitmap graphics. I'm going to shrink it down to where it'll fit on one of these medallions. Let's say right about there. Okay, with that graphic selected, I'm now going to go over here and hit the Smart Fill button, and it will attempt to put that graphic on each one of these pieces. Now let's see what happens. There it is. So it took that graphic, put it on each one of the other medallions. Now all we have to do is set up the engrave or the cut. In this case we would want to engrave it, and the power and the speed, and we'd be ready to cut. And you can see it did a pretty good job. Now in the demonstration they show where they take these medallions and they put them at different angles, and I think that just confuses it, and I'm not sure why you would be that sloppy with it anyway. It's not that big a deal to put them all in there straight, and then the graphics seem to line up a little better. It will try to skew the graphic to make it line up, but it's just not 100%. And I just don't see the reason to throw the medallions in there that sloppy. So you can see, pretty cool feature. Now all we have to do is come over here and let's see, I think we got the height set up, so let's click on the graphic. Let's set it to output. We will set it to engrave at say 10, and we'll set the speed up to about 300. This might be a little light, but just to give you an idea. I'll send you back down to the bed of the laser with the camera, and then I'll hit start and we'll let it engrave. Okay, this video is getting way too long, so I'm going to stop it there. Those are just some of the particular features that I really wanted to show you up front so you can see what the uniqueness of this laser is. In the next 2 videos, I'll get back to more of the basics. We'll show the software a little bit better. We will go through the basic cut procedures for cutting thinner wood. Also, just so you know, this is about 5/8 inch thick wood, and it cut through this in a single pass. It scorches it pretty bad, but it did cut through it, so that's pretty cool. I've been able to make a few projects with it, made some puzzles, made some boxes and different things, and I'll show you that in the next video, and we'll get back to the basics of what a laser is. I'm Steve Good. Thanks for sticking with me through this whole video, and we will catch you the next time.